The Best of Times, live from 710 KEEL Studios in Shreveport, Louisiana, celebrating age and maturity. Helping you make the best years of your life the best they can be. The Best of Times. Your host, Gary Calligas.
Good morning, Architects listeners. I'm Gary Calligas, the publisher of The Best of Times, the only news magazine for mature adults in Northwest Louisiana. Thank you for listening to our show today, and also thanking those who might be listening via the internet at www.710keel.com. Also thanking those who might be listening on their Radio Pub application on their Apple and Android devices. In just a few minutes, we're going to learn how an international organization helps person have more meaningful life even after incarceration. So stay tuned to this show for some very interesting information. It is Saturday, July the 2nd. We are broadcasting our radio show today from the studios of News Radio 710 KEEL, a town square media station here in Shreveport, Louisiana. However, today's show has been pre-recorded, so we will be unable to accept calling questions and comments from our loyal radio listeners. We wish everyone a wonderful and happy Independence Day weekend, beginning today and Sunday, and of course on July 4th on Monday. So we hope that you have a safe and pleasant weekend with family and friends, and that you have an enjoyable day of remembrance of Independence Day of the United States of America. We'll be right back with more information, but now a word from our sponsors and advertisers who make this radio show possible. You're listening to the Best of Times Radio Hour here on News Radio 710 KEEL, proudly presented by Heberts, Standing Country of Shreveport, your Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, and Jeep dealer.
Gary's got more of the Best of Times coming for you on 710 KEEL. Now, back to the Best of Times with your host, Gary Calligas.
Welcome back to our show, the Best of Times Radio Hour, proudly presented by Heberts, Standing Country of Shreveport, your Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, and Jeep dealer. I'm Gary Calligas. I do thank you for listening to our show today, and also thanking those who might be listening via the internet at www.710keel.com. Joining me on my show today as some very special guests is Mr. Corky Davis, a counselor, and Chaplain Ray Anderson, as well as Barbara Guillory with the Kairos Prison Ministry International. Thank you, lady and gentlemen, for joining us today here on the Best of Times Radio Hour.
You're welcome.
So I wanted to mention I've known Corky for a few years now, right?
Yes, sir.
And you have participated in many of the senior and health-related events that I've had throughout the area. And I will tell you, you have educated many thousands of people about your ministry.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
And, you know, that's why, another reason why I invited you and others on the show, to provide another avenue to provide that information to those people throughout the Architects and, again, throughout the world via this radio show that can benefit them, a loved one, or somebody they might know as well.
Well, Gary, that's interesting because we are also an international program. We are not just a local situation.
And I was impressed by
countries.
that. Yes, I was definitely impressed by that situation. Before we talk about the subject, I want to introduce your guest and to tell our listeners what your position and what you do, how you're involved in Kairos Ministry International. So Ms. Barbara, tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I got involved in Kairos in 2003. I was a guest at a Kairos Outside Weekend. In order to be a guest, you have to have been affected, your life has to have been affected by incarceration, and mine was. After that time, it affected me so profoundly that I knew I had to be involved in it.
Wow.
And I went from a guest to state chair now.
And what does that involve?
We have 9 councils in the state and 1 state chapter. So I'm the leader of the state of Louisiana as far as the ministry programs go. We are trying to get more programs up and running. We take care of the problems, and we also communicate with the Kairos Prison Ministry International.
Wow, I congratulate you. And again, thank you for being on the show. It's definitely taking responsibility for whole states. It's a big responsibility.
More than I thought it was.
Oh, I'm sure you're going to do well. So, Chaplain Ray, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm a retired chaplain now. I just recently retired from David Wade Correctional Center as their chaplain. I first came into contact with Kairos as a volunteer at Wade. Minister at the Homer Church of Christ, and we had a prison ministry. And the first and third Sundays I would go out, and twice a year I'd get a call and tell me that my ministry would be canceled for that Sunday for Kairos. And I was wondering who Kairos was.
Oh.
And 15 months later I was hired as chaplain, and I found out that it's an organization that is phenomenal in the transforming power of incarcerated people, and so that's how I come in contact with Kairos.
Wow, that's very touching revelation right there as well. So let's start off. Let's tell our listeners, what is Kairos?
Kairos is an international prison ministry that is to reach those that are affected by incarceration, whether they are incarcerated themselves or whether their lives are just touched by incarceration. And we do it all over the nation. And Kairos is actually a special time, is what it means in the Greek. And we say when we go for the Kairos Prison Ministry that it's God's special time for those guys that we are ministering to.
Yeah, and when I first met you, I thought it was an acronym that stood for a lot of different things. Generally, acronyms like Kairos, means something. Every letter means something. But now that I learned more about you, and it is, this word is used in the Greek, in the Greek, and of course in the New Testament quite a number of times.
Right. It's quite a few times in the Greek in the New Testament, talking about God's special time or in the fullness of time.
So what is the overall mission?
The overall mission is for us to be able to show the love of Christ to those who have no love shown to them. And hopefully in us going and showing them the love of Christ, they will get into a relationship with Jesus Christ themselves and be able to have their lives transformed so that when they come out, they're not the same as what they went in.
So the goal is to make them a better citizen. A better citizen. What happens if they're not a Christian already or another denomination?
They can come to the Kairos Prison Ministry. We tell them up front we are a Christian organization and we will be talking about Jesus Christ, but they're welcome to come and to sit and to listen to all the talks and participate in the Kairos weekend if they so desire.
So you have basically 3 programs that you offer?
Yes, sir. We offer the Kairos Inside, which is for men that are incarcerated or women that are incarcerated. We have an Inside program down at LCIW for the ladies, but most of it's for men. And then we have a Kairos Outside, which is for the females that are affected by incarceration, whether it's their husband, their boyfriend, their fiance, their nephew, their uncle, their friend. It doesn't matter. If they are affected by it, they're welcome to come to Kairos Outside. And then we have Kairos Torch, which we're just getting started in Louisiana. We have one in Bridge City, and we have one in trying to get started in Monroe at the Swanson there. And all of these weekends cost the participants nothing. The Kairos Outside, we will pick them up and take them to the Nazarene camp down around Pineville. They will have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It costs them nothing. Their lodging, their meals, all of it's free. And we do that by fundraising on the other end.
So going back, the torch is for the young offenders?
It's for the juveniles, yes, sir.
Wow.
We're trying to get it started so that we can reach them before they get to the big house, as we say.
And the outside is related. They may have a loved one that's incarcerated. It may help them as well, correct?
That is correct.
So the benefits of that I can see is tremendous. All these three programs, but the benefit of helping all the others who are indirectly affected, right? Mm-hmm. Right, Barbara?
Yes, we say the family members are doing time right along with those inmates. Their loved one gets stripped away. They have to pay court costs. They have to send their loved one money. The children get taken. They're not with their two parents anymore. They're now with their one parent, and it's a lot different for them. And then they have to. They're affected by the stigma that's associated with having a parent or a sibling incarcerated. So it just helps a lot.
So tell us, Corky and Barbara, these programs, are they for city jails, parish jails?
No, it is for the maximum security. What it is for, what Kairos is doing, is we're trying to form a spiritual community within the prison where the guys can get together and they will be able to help themselves in their relationship with each other as well as with God.
So what locations do you have in this ministry?
We have 7 here. We have David Wade, which is, of course, is out at Homer. We have LCIW, which is the ladies' prison. We have East Louisiana Kairos Outside, which is down in eastern Louisiana. We have Louisiana Correctional Institute. I already said that. Angola Prison down in New Orleans area. Rayburn Correctional Prison. We have the West Louisiana Kairos Outside. We have Winfield. We have Jackson Institution. And we have the Dixon Correctional in Homer.
Wow, that's a lot of facilities. And a lot of volunteers, right, Barbara?
Yes, there's over 30,000 volunteers in the ministry.
30,000?
Yes.
Wow.
Non-paid volunteers in the ministry.
That is remarkable. And how many do we have within the state of Louisiana?
About 12,000. They don't all serve at the same time, but we have about 12,000.
And are these volunteers educated on what they need to do or not do? Are they former chaplains? Or are they social workers? Or what disciplines are these?
They are anybody that has a passion to help other people.
Wow, that's a good start.
Yes,
I'm sure they have some of them have some skills, right?
They get trained. If they don't have skills, they get trained. And the main thing is to show the love of the Christian community to people who haven't had love.
So going back to history, what was the history? How was this found, being international?
The first one was in Florida, and it was on death row. There were 9 guys that started a Kairos Prison Ministry. It stems from the Emmaus and Cursillo movements, which are other Christian organizations in the United States and worldwide. Those men had a passion for the incarcerated, and they were rejected many times, but they finally got to go into the death row on one of Florida's death row prisons. And from there, it ballooned. So now we're in 35 states, 9 countries. 35 states. Yes.
Oh, that is a testimony right there. It has really touched a lot of people that it keeps on touching as well.
Yes.
We'll be right back with more information. But now a word from our sponsors and advertisers who make this radio show possible. You're listening to the Best of Times Radio Hour here on News Radio 710 KEEL, proudly presented by Abers, Town and Country of Shreveport, your Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, and Jeep dealer.
Gary's got more of the Best of Times coming for you on 710 KEEL. Now, back to the Best of Times with your host, Gary Calligas.
Welcome back to our show, the Best of Times Radio Hour, proudly presented by Abers, Town and Country of Shreveport, your Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, and Jeep dealer. I'm Gary Calligas. I do thank you for listening to our show today, and also thanking those listening via the internet at www.710keel.com. Joining me on my show today are some very special guests is Mr. Corky Davis, who is the counselor, Chaplain Ray Anderson, as well as Barbara Guillory, who are with the Kairos Prison Ministry International, and giving us an update and information about this very worthwhile organization to help persons and individuals who are incarcerated, not just in the state of Louisiana, but from throughout the world. So thank you, ladies and gents. I learned being international is something to be very proud, right?
Yes, sir.
I mean, that is not just impacting somebody in down the street, but we're impacting through a common organization individuals throughout the world. Which, wow, how touching is that?
It's great to be able to do it. It's great to be able to say we're not just in Shreveport or Homer. We're not just in the state of Louisiana. We're not just in the United States, but we're around the world, and we're affecting those that are going to get out, and they're going to maybe be your neighbor.
That's true. So the funding comes from various sources, I take it.
The funding, yes, sir, it does. It comes from donations. We receive donations from individuals. We receive donations from churches. There are churches that have put us on their mission program, and every month we receive a donation from them. It comes from our team, what we call Green Agape. It comes from just divers and there's one more. If there's a business that would like to help Kairos and they don't have the funds, but they have anything that we might need, we give what we call an in-kind donation. They tell us how much it was worth, and we give them a letter at the end of the year stating that they donated that much to the Kairos Prison Ministry.
Well, that's a very worthwhile organization. You know, there's so many organizations that people are contacted to give, but, you know, when you see an outcome related here that could affect an individual, a whole family, it is definitely tremendous. And,
Gary, one thing, too, we, as a Kairos Prison Ministry, we have been put through the test, and we are now you can check us out at the ECFA website. ECFA is the Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability. It was started with Billy Graham, and so you can check where your money goes. We talked about 30,000 volunteers, and we only have 10 paid volunteers that do oversee the whole ministry.
Only 10. How about this? That is a remarkable way to spend your money. The nation's very tactfully or very prudently. Correct.
Yes, sir. So the majority of your dollar goes to the prison ministry. It's not for advertising. It's not for wages or anything else. It's for the ministry to help feed the people when we are there on a weekend. On a weekend, we go in and we provide the food for that weekend, and to be able to feed them and to house our not the guests, but to house the guys that are working the weekend at the location so that they don't have to drive home every night, and that's what your money is used for.
Okay, let's go into some of the. I would like to get some of the impact. So, Chaplain Wright, give our listeners a little bit of the ways in which the Kairos program can benefit inmates and their family members, etc.
One of the things I realized while I was at Wade, when a person goes into the incarceration system, it's a system designed to basically take away all the human dignity. They're incarcerated. They lose all kinds of their freedoms that many of us take for granted. And the Kairos people will come in and show unconditional love to men who are suffering from the fact that their families have abandoned them. They can't forgive themselves for what they've done. And so these men will come in and share their stories. And the incarcerated men realized that a lot of these people had done wrong in their life, that they had been broken as well. And they find in that a camaraderie is that there are people who still care. And that provides a level of hope that they can maintain a civil organization as far as learning how to get along. Wade, for example, you have about 78 people in a dorm. and it's really close quarters. And you can imagine of all of the different cultural backgrounds, economic backgrounds, educational backgrounds, just all these people are thrown together. And so Kairos kind of instills one avenue of respecting each other, and that has gone a long way in the prison system. I know at Wade, for example, of just getting along. And so one of the things that I watched over the years is how it transforms people and just becoming better citizens inside the system, which translates to when they finally do get out, that's carried over to the outside. And that's really what we're wanting, is for them to come out a better citizen than what they did when they went in.
So, correct me, so there are individuals who are incarcerated that nobody cares about them?
There are people who are in prison that their families have just abandoned them completely.
Family or friends?
Family, friends.
Even though they might have had a minor omission, a minor situation, or a sin that could be forgiven.
That's correct. That's correct. And sometimes it's just the fact that they are repeated offenders, and the family gets tired of the individual constantly going out, coming back, going out. And some of these men are serving some lengthy time sentences that they have lost their parents, they've lost siblings, and it's not unusual to run across an inmate that has no living relatives now. And they, of course, just over a period of time, they've lost contact with friends and other extended family.
Okay, so the impact of chaplains and volunteers that work on the inside, give us a typical day. What is the typical day for a volunteer?
One of the things that at Wade, when I was employed there, we would involve them in the whole system of understanding the security issues first and foremost. Everything's under the auspice of security. And once they understand the premises of what they can and cannot do, and they come in and just basically give the men a hope and feeling that they're not alone anymore, that there are people on the outside who are praying for them, who will correspond with them through legitimate avenues to help them with the different things in their life. And so there's the counseling aspect of it. Some of it's just having the premise of having a friend. And so that goes a long way when you've been friendless for a long time with people on the outside, for example, that you've just lost contact with, and now you have somebody come into your life, accept you for who you are, not going to judge you for your past, and just be a friend. And it just really does change a lot of their attitudes.
And it's not the negative sort of, or quasi-negative of maybe their public defender or their lawyer that they're dealing with, right?
Correct. The volunteers come in and they love these men unconditionally, and like I said, they're called volunteers because we don't pay them. And some of these people come in from South Arkansas. At one time we had some coming from East Texas, from Shreveport, Bossier area, from Monroe area. So they're spending gas, they're spending time. And the men know this, and that makes a big impact with some of these incarcerated men and women down at LCIW, for example, as well, to know that people are coming in just to be with them because, let's face it, we have people who go to church who just go to church. And we have people who go to church who live their church. They live that faith that they talk about. And one thing I found with inmates or offenders, if you're not genuine and you're not sincere, they'll find out in about 3 minutes.
Whoa!
They're quick to know whether you're sincere. They're quick.
Is it the eye contact or the mode of speech, or what do you feel that they're keying in on?
They have dealt with people so long that are insincere, that they have just built within themselves an ability to just pick up on key things. And so that was one of the things I just told the volunteers when I trained them, is just be yourself. Don't go in and condemn what they did in the past. And I informed my volunteers, every morning they wake up knowing they messed up. So they don't need somebody coming there preaching to them about how bad they messed up, because they're reminded every morning when they're up early and getting ready to go out and do the line and such. And so I just told them, just go in and give them encouragement, encourage them to mature, become men of respect and honor and dignity just among themselves.
Are the counseling regarding men and women different?
Absolutely. Men are more analytical in their mindset. Women are more emotional. I have some friends who are women chaplains down at LCIW, and we talk about this when we have our chaplains meetings of the almost night and day difference between dealing with men and women prisoners.
Who's the more difficult?
It depends on who you ask.
Oh, okay. Okay, chaplain.
Actually, I've had some of my women chaplain friends say that the women can be more difficult. But I'm not here to judge either way. So it's when you're dealing with people who are incarcerated and they're dealing with family problems. For example, they cannot call home anytime they want to, and so when things happen, the stress level becomes very high. And so that's one of the things as chaplains we try to minimize that by getting them in touch with family. And Kairos does a great job in helping keep family tie-in as well through Kairos Outside.
So it blends the inside and the outside in their programs, correct?
Absolutely. One of the things I found really interesting is when Kairos Outside became part of the program, these men who had their wives in particular who would go to the outside said it enhanced their marital relationships because their wives and them had something in common on a very spiritual level. And it really improved a lot of their marital relationships because, let's face it, incarceration can definitely put a serious note on a marital relationship.
So going back by eligibility, is everyone who's incarcerated, both men and women in our state in these various facilities, eligible?
Yes, sir. Anybody that is incarcerated, when we go into the incarcerated, anyone is eligible, and we like to pick the biggest, the meanest, the baddest, the ones that affect the prison the most, to get them to come and see what God can do for them. And we have what we call agape love packages that we give out, and what it is it's a letter from every one of our team members, and it's also what I call refrigerator art, which is children drawing and sending in.
So again, do other inmates help recruit other inmates who may be skeptical?
By all means, Chap can answer that one better than I can.
The inmates that go through the program, there's nothing in a prison system that's not known. And as I learned real early in the system, the grapevine is superb in the prison system. And it's ironic that those who go through the program will tell the other inmates, you just got to go through it. And when they ask them, well, what it's about, they'll just say, you just need to go through it. And they know they have the food and they know they have some of the other things, but it's just an experience that cannot be verbalized to the point to where somebody can just tell you about it and you say, oh, okay, that'd be great. I understand it now. It's just something. And the inmates that do go through the program are great recruiters.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
When I retired out of Wade, we had probably 150 on the roster just waiting to get in. Sometimes they're on the roster for 2 or 3 years because we only have 2 Kairoses a year, one in March and one in September.
So there's a waiting list? I don't understand.
Yes, sir. Normally based on the size of the team, will have anywhere from 30 to 36 participants. And so when I was out there, I used 3 criteria. One of them, as Corky was saying, was the biggest, the baddest, the meanest, no faith. Let's get them in. And then I would look at guys who would be getting out within 90 days of the end of the program to kind of give them a boost. And then I'd look for some of the more faithful religious inmates, because you still need a core group within to run your in-house program as well. So we would have an influx after every March and September. I would get dozens of applications. I want to go to the Kairos. I want to go to the Kairos. And so we had to build a database, and we have kept routinely about 150 plus on the roster just waiting to get in.
Oh, that's definitely a positive aspect of your program. But is there that much want and need, and that's kudos to every one of y'all.
Let me add him talking about that. I've been in it since 2003, and when I first started in the Kairos, he had people that what we call resident servers. And in order to be a resident server at that time, you had to attend at least 50% of the Kairos services that was held out there. Now, you have to attend at least 85% of the services to be eligible, because there are so many that's wanted to do it. And then he had 2 or 3 teams this last time that he had to use to try to get everybody that wanted to serve. So they are very involved in it, and recruiting, and they do it that way also.
Well, that's definitely, again, kudos to everyone that's helping to increase the program. So give us some more examples when they go outside after incarceration. How has Kairos helped them?
One of the things that I realized as they return to society, that many of them get involved with the Kairos outside program, and many get involved with the Kairos ministry itself. Sometimes they cannot come back into the prison system as ex-convicts. They have to be off paper, as we say, 2 years. That's completed their entire sentence, and then the warden approves them. We have had some come back in, but most of the time they're assisting the Kairos ministry on the cook team, the prayer team, and so it helps recidivism. And then what they've learned and how to get along with other people really began with them being able to forgive themselves, and that nurtured a lot of the rebuilding of family units as well. And so through the Kairos program, many of these men will go out and continue their work in Kairos, just in a different capacity. And that, of course, is taking a good citizenship mentality with them. And so when they get out, they just continue in that walk of life.
Wow, that is definitely a good positive outcome.
And one thing to always remember this, Gary, when they get out, they may be your neighbor.
That's true.
And that's what I wanted Chap to tell, because he has a personal story.
We're going to hold that. We'll be right back with more information. But now a word from our sponsors and advertisers who make this radio show possible. You're listening to the Best of Times Radio Hour here on News Radio 710 KEEL, proudly presented by Heberts Town and Country of Shreveport, your Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, and Jeep dealer.
Gary's got more of the Best of Times coming for you on 710 KEEL. Now, back to the Best of Times with your host, Gary Calligas.
Welcome back to our show, the Best of Times Radio Hour, proudly presented by Heberts Town and Country of Shreveport, your Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, and Jeep dealer. I'm Gary Calligas. I do thank you for listening to our show today, and also thanking those listening via the internet at www.710keel.com, and also those listening via the Radio Pub application on their Apple and Android devices. Joining me on my radio show today is some special guests, Mr. Corky Davis, who is a counselor, and Chaplain Ray Anderson, and Miss Barbara Guillory, who are with Kairos Prison Ministry International. They're giving us an update about this wonderful organization that helps incarcerated men and women throughout the area, as well as in 35 different states and 8 foreign countries. So let's continue on, Chaplain Ray, about the impact when a person is involved in Kairos ministry and then departs incarceration and it goes into the public.
One of the fallacies in the public mindset is we lock up all these inmates and we throw away the key, and that's not true. In Louisiana, we turn out about 15,000 a year on parole and such, and unfortunately, Louisiana incarcerates more of its citizens than any state in the nation.
It does?
And the United States leads the world in incarceration rates. So that puts Louisiana number 1 in the world. And so when you have a program that can help offset recidivism, and Kairos does in so many fashions, we just don't have the time to get into it. But one of the things I want to encourage people is invest into the ministries, invest into the self-help groups that go in and work with the inmates, because they're coming back out. Majority of them are coming home, and they can very well be your neighbors. And I preached that for many years, and in the early part of my career, I had a young man come in my office and said he was getting out. He was moving into this great big white house, and he started describing the house. And when I was living in the parsonage for the church that I was working with, I looked at him, I said, that wouldn't happen to be on South Main in Homer, would it? And he said, well, yeah. And I said, well, you're going to be my neighbor. Oh. And so, and he became a very good neighbor, by the way. And so with that, what I used to preach became reality for myself. And the young man, we shared backyards with one fence, and so he and his family were good neighbors. And with the people on hearing this, just understand you have men and women who made mistakes. They're coming out, and they're going to be your neighbors. So it behooves us to invest into the prison system in some fashion, be it ministry or self-help groups. We have AANA, for example, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, that represents self-help. And so we have a lot of self-help programs that can help these guys get back on the right track. And a lot of people in prison were not criminals. They did a criminal act, and they're paying for their time. And so we need to help them get squared away, come back out, and take their place as good citizens, because they can be your neighbors.
And they can be good citizens, even though they might have had that particular bad moment in time?
Absolutely.
It wasn't a bad, total, it's not completely bad years and years and years and years. It doesn't last forever, right?
No, it doesn't. And that's one of the things we try to instill in them is don't let your past define who you are today.
Good point. And you're the chaplain. I'm not going to quote the scriptures, but just think about the Apostle Paul.
Absolutely. And one of the things with Kairos is that it doesn't matter what your religious background is, they invite them in. And we've had American Indians, we've had Jewish people, we've had Muslims, we've had atheists, Wiccans, we've had all sorts of people with various backgrounds come into a Kairos program. And they leave still who they are, but they've learned some key things about getting along with other people that they find that's common throughout most of religion throughout the world.
And that you care about them. There was the caring part.
That's the biggest thing that I have found with the Kairos people is that they come in, they show genuine love and concern for the betterment of these people who are incarcerated, and they pick up on that and they begin to live that out in their life as well while inside.
Okay, I think my listeners are asking this question of themselves: how often do these inmates go to a Kairos inside event? Educational aspect. Is it daily? Is it weekly? Monthly?
What happens with the Kairos on the inside is they have a service every Saturday.
Every Saturday.
That is done by the Kairos team inside. We don't go in. But then the third Saturday of every month, we go back in for what we call a reunion. And so we're there. We work with them on their prayer and their share groups, getting the community together. We also have it twice a year. We have it in March and September, so that in January and June we have what we call a retreat, which is a one-day, 6-hour deal where we get together and we feed them supper and we go through it all again and we encourage them and we do all of that kind of stuff. And I had the privilege to meet a gentleman that was the over all the prison ministries international, and he said that Kairos was the best one that there was out there because of the recidivism rate, which was caused by the fact that we went back and showed we cared and showed we loved. And so the guys knew that when they got out, they would have that love and care on the outside as well as on the inside.
Wow, that's a great testimony right there, and a great kudos. So again, is there, I know the other question that my listeners are asking here, is there available individual counseling? Let's say you have that particular problem person, that the meanness, and et cetera. Do you do individual counseling with them, Chaplain?
Yes. One of the things that Kairos has set up is they have lay persons on a team, and every table also has a clergy member. And so the talks given throughout the weekend in March and September, a lay person will do a talk, and then a clergy member will do a talk. And so one of the foundational rules is before we start, they have a clergy member who will be head clergy for that meeting, for that weekend. And if somebody needs to counsel, he will set up with either another clergy or myself. And so we have it built into the system for counseling, and we make room available for any of the clergy to counsel with anybody.
Wow, fantastic. Going back to Kairos outside, how often do they meet?
We have 2 weekends a year, one in the spring, one in the fall.
Is it statewide or is it local area?
There are 2. One is in the east part of the state, that's down south in the toe of the boot. And the other one is, we call it the west part of the state, and it's local in that we meet in Alexandria area. So the north and the south part of the west part of the state have weekends. So we actually have 4 Kairos outside weekends a year. We have reunions after those weekends where the guests can come back and meet other people that are involved in Kairos, and also meet other guests, former guests that have been there. And then we have what's called a swap. It's a prayer share group. The guys and women on the inside do the same thing, but on the outside it's a little different because we can have it in our homes. We can meet at a restaurant, somebody's church, just different places. And a lot of the women meet and have a little impromptu gathering at the prison when they're waiting in line to see their loved one.
So going back to the third program, the youth, how often do they meet?
That's also 2 times a year. They have a weekend. The only one current that we have now is Bridge City, and it was put on hold because of some issues in the facility. But that program is a little different because weekly, the volunteers go back weekly and have a Bible study with the youth and just build a relationship with them. And that they do that for 6 months. So weekly for 6 months they go back. It's a big commitment.
So Corky, are there ways that individuals, that are listeners here, can help Kairos ministry?
There is. The number one way is prayer. It's only by the prayers of those that are on the outside praying for us while we're on the inside that we make it. Another way, and what Kairos is famous for, as Chap can tell you, is cookies.
What?
And we go in with cookies, and we take about 1,200 dozen every weekend into the prison and give them out. And then we also have what we call the children's art, or the agape for the children's art, where if a Sunday school class wants to draw some pictures or do something, they can do that. And then we take and we stick that in a bag, and that is given to them on a Saturday, and it makes a profound impact, because you'd be surprised how many guys will look at what to me is just a black blob and a white house, and they say, that looks just like my grandmother's cat that she had in her house. Oh. And or they'll say, well, we tell them just to put the first name and the age. Don't put the last name or the city, and just put the first name and the age, and they'll look at it and they'll say, I've got a daughter, or I've got a son that's about that old right now. And so it has a lot of effect. And then, of course, the financial, we can always use finances. You can either send them in, or you can go online and you can find it and donate. But the local address is P.O. Box 5522, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71135 for the inside. And you can send your donations in, and we would love to have that. And then, of course, the major one. I guess every group out there has this problem, and that's recruiting.
Sure.
We need volunteers. We've got 1,200 volunteers in the state, but we need more. The Wade team, all the guys are getting older, and we're starting to get to where it's not as easy to do it as we used to could. And so we need some young bucks that can come in and can help us and help us get it all going and keep it going.
Chaplain Ray looks pretty young over there.
He is. He cheated.
He looks like he's like 40.
I just turned 60.
Well, congratulations. You don't look 60.
Well, thank you. I'm well pickled.
Well pickled. Okay. Never heard that one lately. But you eating right, drinking right, A lot of things right?
Trying to do my best.
That's important. So volunteer. So you didn't mention, how do people become a volunteer? Do they call you? They can
call me. They can call me. I'm the state recruiter, and so if they call me, I will get them in touch with the prison that is the closest to them, or the Kairos group that's the closest to them.
And your number?
And my number is 318-470-9182.
318-470-9182. And their website is kairosoflouisiana.org, right?
Right. That
and
is
Kairos is spelled KAIROSOF, Louisiana.org. And again, I want to emphasize there are many other organizations out there and churches. I could not understand why many of the churches, especially Christian churches, would not donate to this particular worthwhile cause. So I do challenge you to contact your parishioners and your pastor or your minister to consider about adding this to the donation list of their particular church.
Yes, sir. That would be great. We would appreciate it tremendously.
So in closing, what else can you tell us about the impact of Kairos?
Well, let me say first, it costs us $10,000 to $12,000 to put on a weekend, and none of that is paid by the institution. That's all paid by Kairos, by what has come in. And Kairos has done a tremendous job. Barbara can tell you of a personal experience herself of what Kairos has done for her husband.
When I went to Kairos, my husband had been through Kairos inside, and it impacted him in such a way that he begged me to go. So I went. And from the moment I stepped my feet on the ground at that camp, I felt the presence of God. I felt love like I had never felt love before. And I've heard that from so many more people that have been through Kairos inside and Kairos outside, is they didn't know that much love existed, and they didn't know people were capable of it. So after I attended the weekend, my husband was still incarcerated, so he did what he could on the inside with Kairos, and I did what I could on the outside, and we helped each other. So we had a ministry, even though we weren't living together in the same house. We had a ministry that we could work in together. He's home now, and we continue to do this ministry, and there are other ministries that we do.
Well, how touching is that? And I compliment you and your husband on helping continue this particular program throughout our area as well as throughout the nation and internationally. Thank you again for joining us today here on the Best of Times Radio Hour. You educated me and many other listeners out there in the Arklatex and throughout the area, and I wish you well and continuation. Look forward to having you attend more of my events and functions that we're having in the area. Again, the phone number to call for more information is 318-470-9182, or you can visit their website at www.kairosoflouisiana.org. Again, thank you for joining us today here on the Best of Times Radio Hour.
Thank you, Gary.
We'll be right back with more information, but now a word from our sponsors and advertisers who make this radio show possible. You're listening to the Best of Times Radio Hour here on News Radio 710 KEEL, proudly presented by Hebert's Town & Country of Shreveport, your Dodge, Chrysler, Ram, and Jeep dealer.
Gary's got more of the Best of Times coming for you on 710 KEEL.
May God bless you and your family. God bless America. Have a great day and a great weekend. Again, thank you for listening to our show today. Best wishes to you and your family for a happy 4th of July Independence Day. I'm Gary Calligas, wishing you and yours the best of times, both today and every day. Have a great day.
You've been listening to the Best of Times on 710 KEEL. Join us again next Saturday at 9 for the Best of Times. This is News Radio 710 KEEL, KEEL, Shreveport Bossier.